Hey folks, this is the legislative update for the week. We're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna provide you in this update with the legislative bill number so you can reference what I'm talking about on the congressional website. So we're gonna start with the SCORE Act, which is HR 4312. The SCORE Act seeks to deal with the issue of name, image, and likeness and college athletics. Where the individual athlete can sell the rights, so to speak, or can make money off of their name, image, and likeness and all the things associated with that and college sports. Now, the bill didn't come to the floor. I was opposed to it, and I think there was enough opposition to it, which is why it didn't come to the floor. And I know that the NCAA wants this. I know that the institutions, the colleges want this, the various conferences want this, and I'm sure that it will be good for them. But here's my concern, among other things. It's not necessarily good for the rest of the taxpayers that are not only funding these institutions through state, federal, and local taxes, but also for the people that want to go to college and can't afford tuition, because the money is aggregated for coaches' salaries, for paying players, and so on and so forth. And what I see happening here is that they're just going to continue, because these sports programs are so lucrative and so important to them, to continue to drive up the cost for athletes, for coaches, for when coaches are dismissed, and then their buyout provisions and so on and so forth. So I think there needs to be some protections here, but the act really doesn't do nearly enough to protect taxpayers, and certainly for individuals that don't have some athletic prowess, who aren't going to get a scholarship, who can't use their name, image, and likeness, but still want to be able to go to school, but can't afford to. And then finally, it does not do, in my opinion, almost anything to protect those who want to go on a scholarship, but play in some sport that doesn't get a lot of notoriety. Certainly, it imperils women's sports, and it imperils Olympic sports, where you can't accept money because you're not a professional athlete. And so for those reasons, I'm right now no on the SCORE Act, and we'll see if it comes back around. We're going to have some amendments to that and see if we can improve that, really for college affordability, for transparency, and also for taxpayer affordability. Taxpayers are happy, I think, generally to pay for education, but when it comes to the sports franchise, so to speak, of even a college that has a $25 million or something deal with the networks, then you got to start wondering, is this really what our tax dollars are supposed to be for in an era where we're $38 trillion in debt? So that's number one. All right, we did 3 bills on education. The Protect Our Kids Act, which is HR 1609, the Class Act, which is HR 1005, and the Trace Act, which is HR 1049. Generally, these deal with propaganda in education, particularly with the Communist Party of China, who oftentimes can pay individual school districts. School districts are looking for money too. And as a component of the deal, the Chinese Communist Party pays the school district. The school district has a Chinese language learning program or some other Chinese cultural learning program, which propagandizes American students about China and why China's great and maybe why America's not so great. So we don't want that happening, and we're going to defund federal. We're going to take funding from any federal funding from a school that engages in that. But we also want any school that's dealing with the Communist Party of China to report that, so parents know and so that we know. And that's what those 3 bills really get at. So I voted in favor of all 3 of those. We have the Small Business Regulatory Reduction Act, which is HR 2965. And that deals with, in the Small Business Administration, a portion of it which we are paying for to regulate business. Businesses have a lot of regulations right now. It makes us uncompetitive with other nations, and that's not really the job of the small business. So we're just zeroing out that account. I don't know whether you know this or not, but each family pays at least $16,000 a year just for federal regulations. I think it actually is much higher than that, but that's for sure. And so we don't need that at the Small Business Administration. We also passed and I voted for the Red Tape Act, HR 4305, which sets up a hotline at the Small Business Administration so that businesses that are dealing with federal red tape that the Small Business Administration either might not be aware of or might not be aware of how it affects the small businesses can then be contacted immediately and efficiently to be told that, and so that they can immediately act on it. And finally, we had a hearing on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee regarding a thing called AAM, Advanced Air Mobility. So there's a feeling and a move that in the future we will not take our cars, you will not take a train to travel locally around or even further distances from your home or your place of work. These are generally electric powered vehicles, kind of like some kind of a hybrid airplane helicopter that would show up at your home or your place of business, fly you above the traffic to your point of destination. And so this is where the world wants to go. This is what the world sees the future as. The hearing kind of called out the fact that the people that are developing this stuff, and we want to develop it as much as we can, and we certainly need to compete and lead with other nations, but they all want federal money, which socializes the risk, right? You pay, the taxpayers pay for the risk, for the failures, for all the trials and all that stuff, but they keep all the profits. Well, it can't be that way. First of all, we don't have the money for it. And second of all, that's not really our business. If private industry, and they've raised billions of dollars to do this, if private industry wants to invest in this and it's going to be as lucrative and popular as they say it's going to be, that's great. They should invest in it, and then they can keep the profits. But what we can't afford to do is have the American people, through their taxes, invest in this while we're not investing in the infrastructure around, the mid-state and around our country. I mean, if you drive up and down 83, you see that project and how much, I don't know whether you know how much that's a huge amount of money. We have capacity problems with the infrastructure we have right now. And we don't have extra money to be investing in something that may work tomorrow or in 15 years or may never work at all, right? Because it works generally on batteries, the components of which come from our enemies and those type of things. So anyhow, you can check that hearing out online if you're interested in that. That's generally the recap for the week. So we will see you next week for the legislative kind of recap update. Until then, be safe. God bless you.